Hello, guys. It's the 11th of November, and it's about this time of the year where you have to start realizing that you're probably not going to be able to finish everything that you had on your TBR for 2025. At least that's the case for me. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I feel like I've done a lot of great reading in 2025, so I don't really have many regrets. I did have some books in the beginning of the year which I thought would be priorities, but which I didn't get around to. But if I start with just a brief recap of some of the books that I did read lately, I just made a separate video about Tanisaki's The Key, which I also wrote a review about. I completed a couple of shorter, newer works lately. I've been reading a bunch of shorter works for the past couple of months. I don't know why. It's not intentional. It was just what I felt like doing. I started the year doing some heavy hitters, I think 100 Years of Solitude, Brothers Karamazov, Madame Bovary. What else? Can't remember right now, but it's all somewhere on my profile. But and then at some point, I was just really enjoying doing shorter works. The two new releases I read was Don Ryan, Heart Be at Peace, which won Orwell Prize for Fiction and Early Sobrieties by Michael Diegler, won an award for best debut novel, and they were both good. They were both good, but I don't know what it is with me and new releases, but it's very rare that they knock my socks off. I mean, if this is the prize winners, if this is creme de la creme, if this is the top 0.1% of books that get published, I don't want to read the rest, to be quite frank. These two were good, but nah, not really that special if I'm being honest. Then I read also a short one which I almost liked. It was a John le Carré novel, Small Town in Germany. It was a random sort of dig into John le Carré's literary uh, catalog. He's written tens, 20, 50, 70, I don't know, 80, 100 spy novels, espionage, sort of central intelligence, counterintelligence type of stories. This one was okay. It was not a particular great one, but it was one that I had on my shelf. And I read it while I was traveling on a plane, and it was actually fairly well suited for that type of environment. Um, then I read The Stonemason by Cormac McCarthy, which is a play, short. I really like that. I mean, obviously, I love Cormac McCarthy. Um, this was great language, prose, themes, so on. Great characters. Just a great sense of time and place, and very uh, charismatic character voices. Um, it's realist, it's grounded, it's nothing too obscure. The only thing is, I still wish it was a novel. I'm not that experienced with reading plays. I think this one worked. It's a good play, even though you're not sort of a play reader, because it's very well laid out for you, and then it's purely dialogue and it's easy to follow. But I still wish it was a novel. I think it would have been a better as a 350-page novel than as a 125-page play. But there's that. Um, then one novel I haven't gotten around to this year, and I'm sort of not as enthusiastic about it as I was in the beginning of the year. That's Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove. I was really feeling the Western vibe after Blood Meridian and after the crossing in Cities of the Plain and all that. And I don't know if it's because I've also read some mixed reviews about this lately. This is a novel which is very praised by a lot of people, but I don't know, for whatever reason, lately I've come across more people that says, "Hey, this isn't as great as it's all made out to be," and it's 920 pages. I don't think I will get to that this year. I will get to it eventually, I think, um, but somehow, I'm sure you know how it is. Your priorities change throughout the year. Another one which I probably won't finish this year, even though I thought I would, is a nonfiction, and that's Donald Keene's Dawn to the West. And this is a great overview and a great deep dive into Japanese literature, literature movements, literary periods, styles, and some short, very well written author biographies. Um, but I want to read those author biographies in you can say in combination of actually reading the authors, and that's half of the book. So I think this will be a book I will continue to dive into in snippets and bits and pieces, as I hopefully next year also will read more Japanese authors. This year for Japan, I've read some Kawabata, I've read Junichiro Tanizaki, and I do want to continue with both of these writers next year. So I don't know when I will get to round to deep diving more into this. Then another one that's been a long project, which I will finish this year, at least some of it, is the Holy Bible, New and Old Testament, the King James Version. I will finish the New Testament this year, and then I will continue reading the Old Testament next year. And I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm not sure how I would characterize myself, agnostic at best. Um, but for context of literature, it's really great to know some of this stuff. In the New Testament, especially the Gospels, the Corinthian letters, and Paulus's letters to the Romans, I would say it's been a bit of a drag, the last stuff I've read, because after the Corinthian and Roman letters, a lot of the other letters are very repetitive, and I can see why they're interesting from a historical context or from a theology, theological, you know what I mean, um, context. But I don't know why these texts are canonized and part of scripture. But I'm not a great religious scholar, so I'm sure there is a good reason. But I'm kind of just dragging through this, looking forward to get to Revelation, which I think will be the last really interesting part of the New Testament. And I did read Genesis and Book of Job from the Old Testament, and those are really great and has very good context for a lot of Dostoevsky, Cormac McCarthy, a lot of stuff. And I kind of look more forward to reading the Old Testament next year, because those are better stories. Um, then I think I will also read Sunset Limited, which is another short play by McCarthy, and then I will probably not finish my McCarthy um, bibliography until next year. I am only after Sunset Limited. I'm only missing The Passenger and Stella Maris in terms of novels, and then The Gardener's Son, which was another screenplay I think that I recently found out that he wrote. And then that will conclude my McCarthy period, so to speak. Um, Other than that, have started reading Solenoid, Solenoid by Mircea Catarescu. Neither the author name or the book title is very suitable for my pronunciation skills. I've read 9 chapters, 75 pages, something like that, and I think it's promising. This is a big, bulky, postmodern, weird. I'm guessing Pynchon-esque. I haven't read Pynchon, but it's it feels maximalist. Like so far, he's spending a lot of time writing things. Like it's certainly a little bit overwritten, but I think it's very well sort of composed so far. It's about a semi autofiction, I guess. It's about a failed author or poet that works as a teacher, school teacher in a rundown town in the 70s and 80s in Romania behind the Iron Curtain. But then there's these hints of dreams and historical persons that will sort of intermingle, and quantum physics, and time is a circle, and stuff like that. So I do look very much forward to it. I think it could be great, or it could fall flat. I really don't know, but I'm certainly engaged. And after reading a lot of short works, I kind of have appetite to go for a bigger one. Um, and then I just picked up a bunch of Dostoevsky. I will probably read some short stories also from his this year, and then that will be a major focus area in 2026. But how are you doing with your TBRs? Are you just knocking them out like you expected, or are you like me, um, having to reevaluate and having sort of gone off in certain directions during the year? At least that's how it's been for me. But it's been a great reading year. I've enjoyed it a lot. I've enjoyed engaging with some of you on various platforms, especially Instagram, and I expect to continue doing that. And yeah, so I'll be happy and very interested in learning about how far you are with your TBRs, how your reading has been this year, and then closer to the end of the year, we'll get to the whole best books of the year sort of videos and posts and so on. And I think those are really fun to read, and I do look forward to making my own as well. So thank you for that, and yeah, I'll see you next time.